Good morning. I'm back with another Q&A, and today I just have one question I'd like to answer because it's a pretty big question. I think it deserves a thorough answer. The question comes from Amy. It says, if you have children and have been spanking and using rewards and punishments their whole lives, how do you start to make the needed connections to be a gentle parent? How do you teach yourself as a parent to change those habits? I really like this question because it's one I get a lot, and sometimes I take for granted as someone who has practiced gentle parenting since my children were born. Sometimes I take for granted that, sometimes people don't come to it till later, and they'll wonder, I've been spanking all this time, I've been using more punitive things, I've been yelling. Is it too late for me? Can I stop? And the answer to that is yes, you can stop right now and do something different. So I think that's awesome that she sent in this question. First, I'd like to share the piece of advice that I heard that I think is my favorite piece of parenting advice, the thing that has made the biggest difference for me, and I think it applies here. Sandra Dodd said it. Her website is sandradodd.com. Huge website with unschooling and parenting information on it. Huge. She said, concentrate only on making your next moment with your child sweeter and kinder and more connected. And I think that as parents, at least I know I do, sometimes we will dwell so much on what we did in the past. We'll think, that wasn't a very kind response, or I wasn't patient, or I yelled, or you did something that you wish you hadn't done, so you'll dwell on that. Or you'll think of the future and you'll think, how is this going to affect them in the long term, and what am I going to do when this happens, and how am I going to handle that? And focusing on one moment at a time, it takes both of those worries completely out of the equation, and it's less overwhelming, and you're able to focus on the present, on right now, and that's the only thing that matters. So you have to ask yourself, okay, in this moment, just this moment, what can I do differently than I've been doing to make my relationship with my child more connected and stronger and sweeter? Another thing that I think is really important to think about is forgiving yourself and showing grace for yourself, and not dwelling on things you wish you had done differently. I mean, it's sort of in the same category there as being in the moment, but you have to give yourself as much patience and grace as you want to give your child. That's going to be very helpful in being able to move past your old patterns. And you have to say, you know what? I did the best that I could with the information I had at the time. I had my child's best interest at heart. And now I want to do something different. And it's okay to move past that. It's good to move past that and to not dwell on what you did and what you want to do different. So I would say focusing just on the next moment would be the first thing. And also making lines for yourself and saying, no matter what happens, I'm not going to spank, for instance. I'm taking that off the table. I'm not going to spank. If I'm in the moment and I want to spank, that's not an option. If you have to remove yourself from the situation, take a break, go in the bathroom, count to 10, count to 100, do a quick breathing exercise. Breathing, by the way, anytime you have an issue, deep breathing should be your first response when you're feeling stressed and frustrated. I actually tattooed the word breathe on my arm to remind me, because I think it's that important. Any sort of stressful situation, breathing should be your first response for you and your child, because it calms your body and it sends oxygen throughout your body. So breathe. Take a time out if you need to. Not put your child on timeout. Give yourself a timeout if you need to. do whatever it is you need to do to recenter yourself. Like I said, take things off the table, take spanking off the table. That's not going to be a response from me. That's not going to be an option. Ideally, also yelling. And take it one moment at a time. And each time you do that, it gets easier and easier and easier. And then after a while, you'll think, yeah, I had a good run there for many moments. And then it doesn't, after a while, it's not something you have to think about each time. It becomes more and more naturally. And your default will no longer be to spank or to yell or to otherwise punish. And after a while, through reconditioning yourself, through forgiving yourself, with being patient with yourself, after a while, your default changes, and you'll see your relationship with your child start to change too, bit by bit, as you do it. So, good luck, and I'm so glad you sent this question. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.